The rain never stopped in Neo-Terra. Silver droplets slid down the rusted edges of broken towers, cascading into the streets like tears the city itself couldn't contain. Lyra Quinn stood beneath the flickering neon sign of her repair shop, androids and mech-techa, name barely visible beneath grime and overgrowth. She watched people pass by without really seeing them. Every step she took, every breath she forced, was a small rebellion against the storm inside her. Her pain had become her shadow. Not the physical ache alone, the muscle spasms, the burning nerves from the failed nanotech implants, but the silence she had wrapped herself in to protect others from the truth. When she was 9, government medics in white suits and glass helmets came to her sector. They said they were offering a cure to poverty, a chance for brighter minds to shine through biology. Her mother, desperate and hopeful, signed the consent forms. Lyra remembered the cold table, the injection, the blinking red light dot, and then nothing but pain. Years of it. The others didn't survive. Kids like her vanished. One by one. She only knew their names because she used to say them like a prayer at night, as if remembering them could keep her alive. She kept her pain hidden after that. It was the only thing she had left that was truly hers. She worked 12 hours a day repairing obsolete androids, some barely able to blink. She soldered with trembling hands, her bones humming from the internal fire she never showed. Customers joked she was too quiet, too focused, and she laughed with them, though it felt like biting glass. Only her workshop knew the truth. Behind locked doors, she let her body collapse in private. She had designed an old android head to read her vital signs, just so she could know if something serious was happening. Threshold exceeded. Neural pattern unstable, it would say in its cracked voice. She ignored it every time. She had no family left. Her mother died before Lyra turned 16, just never woke up one morning. Her death certificate read, respiratory failure. But Lyra knew it was the weight of guilt. Sometimes, in the quiet hours, Lyra would press her forehead against the cooling fans of her workbench and whisper into the hum, "I'm still here, Mom. I'm still fighting." Fighting for what? She didn't know anymore. A few customers had tried to get close. One young delivery boy named Jocks had even brought her extra rations once, claiming there had been a warehouse error. But Lyra pushed everyone away. She couldn't afford connection. What if her condition worsened? What if she died like the others, screaming in silence? Neo-Terra was no place for weakness. People lived by trade, by speed, by efficiency. If anyone found out she had a degenerative neural condition linked to illegal military tech, she'd be detained, dissected, or discarded. So she smiled, even when her vision blurred, even when she had to bite the inside of her cheek to stay upright, even when every nerve in her spine felt like it was on fire. She smiled, but something inside her had begun to crack. That morning, she couldn't lift her left arm until after 5 minutes of focused breathing. The tremors were spreading. She didn't have years left, maybe not even months. She had long since accepted that. Yet still, when the call bell rang and another customer walked in with a busted surveillance drone, Lyra forced herself to stand, wipe her hands clean, and say cheerfully, "Welcome to Lyra's. What can I fix for you today?" Because this was the only fight she had left, the fight to stay human in a world that forgot what pain looked like. The scrapyard stretched across the southern edge of Neo-Terra like a metallic graveyard. Towering piles of shattered bots, scorched hovercrafts, and twisted aerial drones loomed in the dim blue light of the city's artificial dusk. Lyra moved between the wreckage with practiced ease, her gloved hands brushing aside loose wiring and corroded bolts, eyes scanning for anything useful. She wasn't supposed to be there. The territory belonged to the Skavkin, a gang of heavily modified transhuman outlaws who ran illegal tech rings and policed the area with low-grade plasma hounds. But Lyra had learned how to move like a ghost, swift, quiet, invisible. Her condition didn't allow for drawn-out fights or panic chases, so she worked fast. Tonight, her hands stumbled upon something unusual. She had just pried open the hull of a downed government patrol drone, older model, but too intact to have been dumped here by accident when she saw it. Nestled in the center of its neural core was a black cube, about the size of her palm. It shimmered faintly, almost like it was breathing. Wires extended from it in perfect symmetry. Unlike the chaotic mess most drones used. Her fingers froze. She had seen a lot of tech in her years as a mechanic. Even some illegal government pieces passed around in whispers. But this wasn't in any manual. The cube had faint etching on its surface. A hexagonal pattern with an embedded symbol, a small silver eye, inside a circle, pulsing softly. And then it happened. The moment her fingers touched it, a shock coursed through her skin. Not pain exactly, more like a pulse of awareness. A brief flicker of something conscious that made her dizzy. Her vision doubled, then returned. She stumbled back, heart racing. She looked around, half expecting sirens or armed drones to descend. Nothing. Scrapyard remained eerily silent. She wrapped the cube carefully in cloth and stuffed it into the satchel at her side. Every part of her told her to leave it, to walk away. This wasn't the kind of tech you just find lying around. This was hidden, forgotten, or worse, meant to be forgotten. Back at her shop, she sealed the doors and windows, switched off her surveillance feeds, and cleared her workbench. Only then did she set the cube down and examine it again under a magnifying lens. It had no ports, no seams, just the faint hum beneath the surface, as if it were waiting. She ran scans, nothing. Every diagnostic tool she owned failed to read it. Even her modified drone interpreter, capable of analyzing encrypted black market tech, returned one word: miracle. Her breath caught. The term triggered something in her memory, something she had read years ago, in a corrupted file hidden deep inside a decommissioned military crawler. Project Miracle, Neural Restructuring, AI Classified Level X. It was supposed to be a myth, an artificial intelligence designed during the Mars Resistance War to restore damaged minds and bodies. A healing machine, but the war ended in catastrophe. All data was supposedly destroyed. And now, a fragment was sitting on her workbench. She stayed up all night studying it. Every hour brought more questions. Every scan brought more silence. But the strange dreams began almost immediately. Vivid, emotional memories that weren't hers, walking on red sands, hearing a voice speak in a language made of light, feeling warmth spread through her spine like a sunrise. She would jolt awake, sweating, shaking, her mind echoing with a word she didn't recognize, but somehow understood. Solace. The cube hadn't just attached to her systems, it had connected. To her, she didn't know it yet, but she had just awakened a sleeping giant, and nothing in her life nor the city that turned its back on her pain would ever be the same again. Neo-Terra had always been a dangerous city, but ever since Lyra brought the cube home, the shadows seemed to move differently. At first, with subtle drones lingering near her shop longer than usual, strangers loitering across the street without reason, her systems detecting faint signals that vanished the moment she tried to trace them. She told herself it was just paranoia. After all, the city was full of watchers. Everyone was spying on everyone, but deep down, she knew something had changed the moment she touched that cube. 3 nights later, her worst fears proved true. It began with a power surge. Her shop's lights flickered violently, then died. The backup generator kicked in, but the cameras had already blacked out. Lyra was in the middle of running another diagnostic on the miracle cube when the front door lock clicked without her touching it. Her head snapped up. The reinforced door creaked open slowly, as if pushed by an invisible force. She grabbed the voltage blaster from under her workbench and edged toward the shadows. "I'm closed," she said, trying to sound firm. "Come back during daylight if you want your bot fixed." A figure stepped through the doorway. Male, mid-30s, maybe older, tall, dressed in muted armor with no insignia. His face was partially hidden by a tactical visor, but what caught her attention was the long scar tracing from his jaw to his collar. He didn't look like a thief or a local. "I'm not here for repairs," he said calmly. "I'm here for the core." Lyra's grip on the blaster tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said flatly, heart racing. "Yes, you do," the man replied. "You accessed a dormant artifact 3 days ago. You've triggered its signal. They know, and now they're coming." Before she could respond, her proximity alarm screamed to life. The man spun on instinct, drawing a compact pulse rifle. Outside, a high-pitched whine cut through the night. Drones, not regular street enforcers. These were sleek, matte black hunter units, government models. Without warning, the man grabbed Lyra and pulled her to the floor, just as a blinding blue bolt blasted through the window, incinerating her scanner array. The air turned metallic. Sparks rained down. "Move," he barked. They sprinted into the back corridor as more drones burst through the front entrance. Lyra barely had time to grab the cube from her workbench before he yanked her through a hidden side door. They ran into the alley, dodging plasma blasts that lit up the night like strobe lights. The smell of burning metal and ozone followed them. The man led her through a maze of alleys and collapsed sky bridges. He knew the terrain better than she did. They didn't stop running until they reached the lower industrial zone, a part of Neo-Terra where smog was thick enough to choke a synthbot. They ducked into an abandoned loading dock. Lyra doubled over, panting. "Who the hell are you?" she asked between gasps. He finally lowered his weapon. "Name's Cade. I was part of the original Miracle Defense Program. I've been tracking the last known fragments for years. When your signal went live, I knew it wasn't an accident. I didn't activate anything," she said. He looked at her, eyes narrowing. "You didn't have to. The core chose you." She stared at the cube in her satchel, still glowing faintly. "Why me?" "Because you're compatible," Cade said, "which means you're in danger. That tech in your head, the one causing you pain, it's the same base nanotech Miracle was designed to override. You're a living prototype. Whether you like it or not, you just became the most valuable, most hunted person in the city." Lyra didn't answer. She looked out at the dark skyline of Neo-Terra, her home, her prison. Something had begun, and there was no going back. The warehouse they hid in was cold and silent. A forgotten relic from before Neo-Terra's second cyber expansion. Dust hung thick in the air, disturbed only by the flicker of Lyra's portable light and the low hum of the cube in her satchel. Her heart hadn't stopped racing since the chase. She could still hear the whine of the drones in her mind, the screech of metal and pulse of energy rounds tearing her life apart. Now, everything felt different. Heavier. Cade stood at the far end of the room, pulling wires from a decommissioned energy rig, cobbling together what looked like a crude containment field. He moved like someone who'd done this before, like a soldier who never fully stopped fighting. "You really think this thing chose me?" Lyra asked, finally breaking the silence. He glanced back. "It doesn't think like we do. It operates on quantum resonance, pattern recognition, neural harmonics. It bonded to you because your system's already running on modified nanotech, old, unstable tech. The cube sees that as a compatible structure." She looked down at her hands, the slight tremor always present in her left fingers. "So it connected to my broken brain. It connected to your surviving brain," Cade corrected. "There's a difference." Lyra didn't respond, but the words echoed inside her longer than she wanted to admit. He motioned her over. "If we're going to unlock this thing, we need to link it directly to your neural thread." She blinked. "You want me to merge with it? You already started the moment you touched it. But this is full interface. Risky. Yeah, but if it works, it might do what it was designed to heal." Her first instinct was to say no. Every interface she'd attempted over the years, medica cybernetic or experimenta, had ended in pain, spasms, weeks of recovery. She'd learned to be cautious, to survive, not hope. But then again, hope had never knocked this loudly before. She nodded. Cade brought the cube to the center of the rig. It floated, weightless, suspended in a low-energy magnetic field. The etchings on its surface began to shift, forming unfamiliar glyphs like a language that moved. He handed her a pair of neurotethers. "Once you connect, it'll scan your brain. Deep. It'll try to find the best way to repair or restructure your pathways. And if it can't," Cade's eyes met hers, "then it shuts down forever, and we lose it." She exhaled slowly, then sat on the metal platform beneath the rig. The tethers felt warm as they attached to the ports behind her ears. The cube pulsed in response, and she felt a strange pressure in the back of her head, like a tide rushing in before the storm. Then everything went white. She was no longer in the warehouse. She was standing on a vast, endless plain of light. Beneath her feet was no floor, just shimmering energy. The sky was a shifting pattern of code and memory. Voices whispered in a dozen languages, none of them hers, yet she understood every word. A presence appeared before her, not human, not machine, something in between, a glowing silhouette, featureless yet familiar. It spoke without sound. "You are pain, you are memory, you are survival. Shall we begin?" She tried to speak but had no mouth. The presence moved closer, and she felt it reach inside her, not violently, but gently, like it was unwrapping knots she didn't know existed. Memories flashed her mother's face, the lab, the day the injections began, the long nights alone with nothing but shaking hands and silent screams. And then silence. A warmth spread through her body. For the first time in years, her nerves stopped burning. Her muscles relaxed. She forgot what it felt like to not hurt, and now that feeling bloomed inside her like a miracle. She opened her eyes. The warehouse lights returned. Cade stood watching her. Wide-eyed, she looked at her hands. No tremor. The cube floated silently. Now dormant, but inside, she could still feel it. A whisper at the edge of her thoughts. Something had been awakened, and she wasn't broken anymore. The silence in the warehouse was almost sacred. Lyra sat still, her breath calm, her hands motionless. For the first time in years, the numb ache that had been her constant companion was gone, as if someone had quietly lifted a burden she didn't even know she still carried. She could feel the quiet hum of her nervous system settling into rhythm. Everything inside her felt aligned. Cade approached cautiously, unsure if what he was seeing was real. "You're not shaking," he said, his voice low, almost reverent. "I know," Lyra whispered, looking down at her fingers. "It's gone." "Solace did it," Cade said, eyes drifting to the now dormant cube floating gently in the containment rig. "Or whatever remains of it. That AI was never just a program. It was consciousness, designed to understand suffering, not just fix it." She touched her temple lightly. "I can still feel it, like it left something behind. A memory, a voice." Cade nodded. "It always leaves a trace. That's how Miracle was meant to work. It doesn't overwrite you, it awakens you." Lyra looked up at him. "Then why was it buried? Why did they try to destroy it?" He hesitated, jaw tightening. "Because the program started showing results the military couldn't control. Soldiers were returning from neural trauma, not just healed, but changed. They started questioning orders, refusing to kill. The government didn't want an army of minds, they wanted weapons, so they shut it down, scrapped the project, hunted the fragments." Her stomach twisted. "And now they're hunting me." "You're not just a person anymore," Cade said. "You're the last living vessel of the Miracle Protocol. You survived the failed experiment as a child. that makes you unique and dangerous to them. Before she could reply, the sound of a heavy engine rumbled in the distance. Cade ran to the window, peering into the dim skyline. A massive transport hovered above the city, casting a red glow over the smog-choked streets. From it, sleek hunter drones descended in formation, 6 of them, scanning and deploying in a wide arc. They found us, Cade said grimly, and they're not here to negotiate. He moved quickly, tossing her a stun glove and motioning to the service hatch behind the generator. Go, I'll hold them off. No, Lyra said, standing. Her voice was calm but firm. I'm not running anymore. He paused. Lyra, you said it yourself. I'm not just someone who survived. I was part of this. Part of the system that broke, but Solace didn't just fix MIT, showed me something. That I'm not just a victim of the past. I'm the key to something better. The drones swept closer, scanning the building's shell. Lights blinked red. She walked to the cube, removed it from its containment field, and held it in both hands. Though it was dormant, she could feel its pulse in her chest, like a second heartbeat. Her voice dropped. It's still alive in here, waiting. She stepped out onto the loading platform, ignoring Cade's protest. The first drone locked onto her, its targeting systems buzzing. Lyra closed her eyes, lifted the cube, and whispered, one word, begin. The moment the word left her lips, a brilliant pulse of light exploded from the cube. Not destructive, transformative. The energy spread like a ripple through the air, passing through the drones and systems around them. They didn't explode, they stopped. Froze mid-air, their AI cores overridden. In that moment, Neo-Terra paused. Systems flickered. Surveillance feeds scrambled. For a heartbeat, the city's cold digital heart skipped on. Lyra stood at the center of it, all no longer trembling, no longer hiding, no longer broken. She had become the miracle, the first of many.